Welcome, 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 everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is Phoenix Talks, and I am Micah Grant, also known as Brenda Wolf, and I am joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Diane DiBiase.
Hello.
And we have quite an interesting conversation to have with you guys today.
Yes, we do. Let's get right into it.
Let's get right into it. All right. Let me open up my phone so that I can see the chat in case anybody pops in, wants to ask a question. All right, inspiration that came in for this week's conversation is Innerstanding. Now, a little bit of backup as to why that came about. Last week, I recorded a song by David Arkenstone, sung by Charlie Bronson, called Slip Away. And when I was recording this song, it's about the loss of a true love. And while I understand loss and I have emotions that I can pull from, I wanted to completely embody this song so that anybody who heard it could relate on an emotional and be able to release as well. And I was talking with a friend, another friend, about this. And she was like, you know, it takes an innerstanding to be able to do that, to have that level of empathy for others. And I was like, oh, Diane, this is what we're talking about.
We got a live one.
I was like, oh, okay. And you know, what's crazy is that all week long, while we in between, I'm like, okay, where's this going to go and how are we going to actually talk about this? Yeah. So I want to know, now that you know my inspiration, I want to know from you, Diane, what it is that your perception of innerstanding is.
I think it's there's multiple facets to innerstanding because there's different innerstanding for different aspects of life. So I think all understandings of innerstanding is putting yourself in the position where now you're asking yourself, what if that was me? And how would that impact and affect and change my life? And how would I think I would handle it based on my limited knowledge of what I've learned about myself and the emotions that I've experienced? Mm-hmm. And just walking yourself through that so that you can find deeper levels of compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just for other people, but also for yourself.
Precisely. Precisely, because through that process, and when you have that natural compassion and are an empathic person already, you're gonna bawl, you're gonna feel all those things that whoever's going through whatever that you're doing your own what if scenario. You're gonna feel every ounce of it, and that's important too because you had said releasing, and it's a nice tool to have. You know, innerstanding also includes when you are, this equates to, not equates to, but this is parallel with when you're learning about yourself, when you're triggered and you're walking through your triggers like we talked about, and when you're learning about yourself and showing yourself compassion, you are practicing innerstanding.
Yes.
You are learning the depth of your own expansion and capabilities and knowledge and intelligence.
And the difference for reference, or you know, just to compare, there's understanding and then there's innerstanding. Okay, let's change the words to I know and I'm aware. Where so many of us, when we are trying to understand something or we think we understand something, our immediate response when that is brought to us is, I know.
Yeah. But do we know?
But do we
ask ourselves?
Do we have an awareness of it?
Yes.
And when you have an awareness of it, you have an innerstanding of what is being presented to you. And it could be something that you're trying to work through that you don't understand, right, and that you're trying to move beyond. But because there hasn't been that internal work, yeah, of allowance and healing to happen, right, the awareness isn't there. So the innerstanding can't be there.
Right. Right.
Now, conversation happened yesterday, and this is where Brindle is going to get a little bit vulnerable, because a conversation was had yesterday that in previous years I came across. Now, none of what I'm about to say has been officiated by any professionals, but because of WebMD and research and what people can have at their fingertips, some of my personality traits came across to other people as narcissistic, borderline personality, ADHD, and others. And there's a lot of inner work that I've had to do so that I can hear things like that and not get offensive and say, well, I know I'm acting that way, which is a go-to for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like, wow, I did used to act like a jerk. And I can see now, as painful as it is to accept, I can see now why other people would view me that way.
Right.
And doing the inner work so that I have that understanding.
Yeah.
So that I can empathize and understand when other people are going through it.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
And the craziness of timing, when we have these conversations, we can't make this up. Just can't.
It just naturally happens. That's why it's so. Yes.
Really, really.
Now, when you practice that level of compassion for yourself and that understanding for yourself, you're able to really give yourself an opportunity to choose something different, because now you've just given yourself more information. So yeah, it's quite convenient to have those understandings, and it really does have a lot of arms and legs, just like a lot of these different things. And to be able to give yourself the gift of self-accountability so that you could allow yourself permission to let go of those old programmings that are basically bad intel that you just need to chuck, or that were things that you needed to work on because of your survival mode. You know, you're gaslighting for your survival mode because you're being defensive, because denial is much better a consequence than the abuse that you're going to get otherwise. You know, like every circumstance is different and everybody has different reasons for survival in a lot of different areas. So part of that understanding is that self-accountability to acknowledge that your survival traits were toxic to others. Yeah. And giving yourself that deeper compassion so that you feel sorry for, well, not feel sorry, but, you know, give yourself that compassion, period. Advocate for yourself so you can implement those self-empowering tools like self-advocacy through tools and skills like, you know, writing yourself a letter, you know, as the advocate for yourself at when you need it at those times, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
All those little psychology exercises that we do.
And it also brings about the capability of when you present how somebody is presenting themselves. Take that for however you wish.
Right.
How they act, their behavior, their personality, how they present themselves. And you can take that from when the comment is made about a behavior. There's no offense taken by it when it's understood. Right. Somebody have an understanding, have a comprehension of what a term means and what a label is.
Right.
But if there isn't that internal, yes, I'm aware, and I am working on this.
Yeah.
That changes everything.
It does. That's what part of what they call like the death of the ego, if you will. And what I don't like to say, because ego is good and bad. There's it
yes.
in it. But the lower vibration, right? The lower vibrational stuff that we're not good with, which is the judgment and the expectations and all that stuff, the self-doubt, whatever. all those negative things that we're trying to release ourselves from that are sabotaging our growth. Those ego aspects will die. Will be that's you're only triggered in that sense where if something's offensive to you because of you shaming and whatever judging yourself. So
It's the difference between selfish and selfish.
yeah. Yeah.
And in case you didn't get that reference, little s selfish or big S selfish.
Right.
Big S selfish is where you want to be.
Yeah.
Little s, not so much. That's the lower vibration.
Yeah. So
Lower,
through this,
there you go.
right. So through this understanding process, you will experience several ego deaths because everything's layers. Everything has a spectrum. You don't know where you are on the spectrum until you learn something new.
Exactly. Exactly. You can't understand that you're selfish if you're stuck in selfish.
Exactly.
You also can't understand that you're selfish if you're stuck in selfish.
Yes. So innerstanding requires that you allow yourself to reflect on yourself and hold yourself accountable and take responsibility for the ways that your own survival mode is toxic or could be toxic or was toxic, and move through all of that with compassion for yourself and empowerment for yourself of how you decided to do something different and applaud yourself through that. That's not easy.
No.
A lot of people avoid this work because that stuff is painful. And, it still is painful, even, because we will have many things that come to surface for us as we experience life in general.
And how many times have people done affirmations? They've done mirror work. And we talked about, I'm pretty sure we talked about this last week. And if we haven't, I know we've talked about it before, but where you go and you do mirror work and you're throwing affirmations at yourself. I'm beautiful, I'm this, I am that. And it's all positive. And there's that little voice inside, that itty bitty voice inside that you still hear. No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not.
Get rid of self-doubt first. Get rid of self-doubt. If you need to release something, release self-doubt.
Easiest way to release self-doubt is to celebrate what you are good at, even though can be as small as making a bed, making a cup of coffee, selecting the proper meal when you start your day.
Right.
I am good enough to type. I am good enough to send a message. I am good enough to take a picture with my camera. These sound stupid to a lot of people, but it's not, because you're celebrating something that you can do. Yes. And you're telling the brain that, oh, wait, I can.
Yes.
Brain doesn't care about what's after.
And that'll evolve to I am enough, period.
Yes.
So you got to start that momentum with that understanding.
And another level of understanding is when, and this goes with judgment.
Yeah.
When you are perceiving something that goes against what you believe, it's going against your understanding. But when you are allowing space for things that you don't, and holding space for that, there's exceptions to everything that's said. I'm going to just throw that out there. There's always exceptions to everything that's said. But in where we're talking about, when you hold space for what you don't understand, you are actually understanding. Because you're allowing somebody else's experience to be real, to be something that may not be what you agree with, but you understand that they're happy about it. They're sad about it. They don't understand it. And it opens up the doors for better communication, less stress, less attacking. Because healthy debates are good. You can question what you don't understand. But if it comes from a place of understanding, then it takes away that attacking charge that creates discomfort
Right. Right. And if you remind yourself that we're all having our own experience based on our own limited knowledge of our own lives, you're going to remind yourself that let me be clear about my feelings, my needs, my thoughts, because I can't expect somebody who didn't live the same identical life that I lived to think the same way I think and know what I know and feel what I feel. So when you remind yourself of that, you kind of allow yourself to kind of separate yourself and put yourself more in that observer mode. And all of this is living from that heart-centered space of love and compassion for yourself, of and being open to learning about yourself. It's all about learning about yourself. Everything is gathering data. I think we said that in one of our conversations as well.
It is.
We're gathering good intel because
I mean, there's
what that is.
almost 9 billion walking computers on this planet.
Yes, yes.
I mean, and trying to understand and say, well, this is how everybody should think. This is what everybody should do. And just living by that and shoulding all over people.
Right.
That's not understanding. That's not compassionate. That's not understanding.
Right.
And this is me scolding for that. And I'm guilty of it too. We all do it.
I do it to myself sometimes.
What's that?
I said I do it to myself sometimes and I catch myself and be like, no, no, let's change that.
But that takes the inner work and the allowance to be willing to.
Yes.
Which a lot of people aren't.
Yes.
I mean, whatever a psychologist or psychiatrist would label me with, that I have tried to work through all my life and has created good times, bad times, separation, isolation, loneliness, but togetherness at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I could live under a label.
Right.
But it's the recognition that what I was doing wasn't working.
Yes. And with understanding or living through that heart-centered space of love and compassion for yourself, you're going to decide for yourself how you feel, because I almost feel like sometimes we get a lot of diagnoses thrown at us because we're just basically checking off boxes that fit in a certain category so that there can be some kind of action towards it. But the reality is that if we don't understand if we're in alignment with who we are as a person, and we don't understand, aka understand, what makes us tick, then we're going to seek that external validation for other people to tell us who we are, which doesn't fix anything because we're not getting to the root of the reason why we're in those survival modes that are parallel to those diagnoses, because they're trauma responses. So learn who you are, learn yourself, choose how you wish to move forward and how emotionally you wish to feel, so you can align yourself with actions and thought patterns. And you will have that understanding and recognize that, okay, I see why I've had this diagnosis. I understand because it's limited. That's an understanding. The understanding of the diagnosis is whatever they box check. That's not the end.
Yeah, an interesting image while you were describing that came to my head, where, okay, we have these boxes that we check off. We have perceptions based on what we have gathered up through all of our lives. Now, when you're looking at a painting and you see green stripes and you see this blue background and you see these large white splotches of white, and then you see these little bitty dots of green and these long slenders of brown. What image did I just paint in your mind?
A beautiful piece of modern art.
Brush strokes of green, grass. Splotches of white, clouds. Blue, sky. these are the things that we begin to associate because of what we've picked up throughout our lives.
Yeah.
And then you go and you ask the artist what it actually meant, and they describe you, and you're like, huh? That's not what you painted. And they're like, yes, it is. But that's how you saw it.
Yeah. You're limited. We're all limited.
And now, some people might have the feeling that we are bashing programming. You can't help it. You can't get away from it. It happens because we all do our best when we have children around us and presenting them with how the world works and what is right, what is wrong, until they have their own perception of what is right and what is wrong, until they have their own understanding of what the understanding that is being thrown at them really means.
Right.
So it can't be helped. And well, you shouldn't teach your child that. Well, they're going to learn something somewhere along the way that's going to be similar.
Yeah.
So and I'm just going to pause and leave that and push it to the side.
Ultimately, the learning about yourself brings you that understanding, which will then bring you to that level of, okay, what are my options to try to do something different?
Right.
And that understanding of who you are is going to help narrow down those options so that you make healthier choices moving forward, and they get better and better and better and better. The more you experience, the more you try things on. It's like trying on a pair of pants when you're moving forward. Do they fit? No, I don't like these. We're putting them back on the rack. I'm gonna try something else.
Yeah.
No judgment.
And then here's the crazy part, okay? We're going to talk about pants for a second, and it totally fits in what we're talking about, okay? Because you pick up one pair of 32s, okay? Waist size 32. This is personal experience. From one rack, they fit great. You pick a pair of size of 32s on another rack, and you're sitting there struggling to get the belt or the button snap. And then you try from another rack, from another brand, the same size, the same, and it's fallen off of you.
Yeah.
But they all say 32. Crazy metaphors come at me. I don't know where they come from, but it was just like, whoa.
This don't know unless you try.
This is insane. You don't know if it actually fits until you try. And right. Before I forget, there is a comment in the chat real quick before we move too far away from what the comment was about. Let me bring it up. Carla says, labels tend to be a crutch. We find a reason for what is causing it. We find a reason for what is causing it. We use it as an excuse.
Thank you, Carla.
It's okay. I have this diagnosis. It's okay that I act this way. No, it's not.
Exactly.
No, it's not.
Yes.
And anybody who says that it's okay for you to act a certain way because you have been labeled a certain way is wrong.
Right. Right. You are not your diagnosis. You are what you choose to do moving forward.
You may suffer the ailments of a diagnosis. And there's compassion there for that. 100%.
There is. When you align yourself more with who you are and relax your nervous system that way, you'll start to see all those symptoms either diminishing completely or minimizing where you can self-regulate easily. You get yourself to that space and place. I mean, I have ADHD. So for me, if I don't practice this self-work, this understanding work, this compassion work, I would be dysregulated more often, a lot. I would be dysregulated all the time. I was when I didn't know any better, when I was undiagnosed, and so how I function now is because I have that understanding of myself. I know myself so well. I know exactly, when I'm burning out, when I'm overstimulated and understimulated at the same time. Understanding comes in so handy so you can make the healthiest choices for you. That's the point. The point is you have to understand yourself so well so that you learn what your needs are and learn what they need in order to be met, how to meet those needs.
Right, right. just recently I read where a friend of someone had been diagnosed with severe psychosis and was recently taken off the meds that they were on, lithium, and they were backsliding, but they had to take them off the lithium because it was causing physical issues, which we all know lithium does. In the meantime, while the medications were being taken, care had been stopped by the person, not the doctor. And this friend is concerned because there was a backslide. What do I do? Well, first, they have to be willing to heal. Second, there are better meds than that. That needs to be addressed. All of these different things that can help. But if the pushback is there because of shame for that diagnosis, or the I know better, I don't need, how's that working for you?
Right.
Seriously. And this goes for a lot of people, and that just goes back to making it an excuse. Well, I'm always going to be this way, and it doesn't matter what kind of medication or what kind of treatment that you give me, it's still, I'm going to be this way. You're right and you're wrong.
Yes. Because there's a spectrum for everything. So you have to, by learning yourself, by learning who you are and what makes you tick and what your needs are and how to fulfill those needs for yourself, you're going to understand how much of whatever that diagnosis is affects your daily life more realistically, instead of the survival mode version of how it affects your life, which is when you get the diagnosis, because you usually go get a diagnosis when you're really, really dysregulated, you know?
Not all size 32s will fit your waist.
Right, right. So you got to try different things, learn yourself, learn yourself. That's what that understanding is about. And if part of it, so I heard myself say we're all limited earlier. And the follow-up thought that is important is, however, we are limitless. We are energy beings. The only limitation that we have is this human limitation. So it's up to us what we would like to experiment with our human experience, in order to bring ourselves to that more closer to limitlessness that we truly are as an energy being.
And there's a universal consciousness that all of us are connected to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nobody is separate. Nobody is not connected. No one.
Right. And a lot of that has to do with releasing those lower vibrational energies and emotions, the stuff that keeps you in not taking responsibility or accountability for yourself, maintaining judgment, and all that stuff. So you do need, I forgot what I was saying now. I lost my own train of thought. Sorry, there's the ADHD.
Okay, it'll come back. It'll come back.
What did you say before? I lost it. Dang it. That usually happens to you. It's my turn this time.
That's all right. That's all right. You've had a long week, and sometimes that derails the trains, which is okay. And you know what's crazy is that it leads perfectly into that there's a universal mind. Mm-hmm. We all have the same buildup. It's built the same. Yeah. And all of the functions are the same, whether they work or not. Yeah. They are. Every single person on the planet doesn't have a differently designed brain. Mm-hmm. They don't have a differently designed mind that works in a different way. We all have the same kind of mind. And we all have thought.
So the human body limitations, we have to learn how to work within the parameters of whatever this specific human vessel gave us, including with wiring and firing of the brain and where those neurons fire and what chemicals are released where and all that jazz, because even that's different for a lot of us. Again, our limitation is this human experience, this human physical being, whatever kind of environment we have on this physical material world. but we all have that one collective connection to one another energetically.
Exactly. And
Or else
when
would we all
somebody
be,
breaks,
what was that?
when, when somebody breaks a leg and they're given a crutch to assist in walking, and they're shown how to use that crutch so that it will help them. And then they come back to the doctor. I don't understand why I have this lump in my armpit now. Because you weren't doing it right. You didn't follow the instructions. You didn't follow the guidance and guidelines that you were given. You were just using the crutch. And it wasn't helping you.
Right.
I'm gonna let people work that one out on their own.
That's what the understanding is about. You got to learn about yourself so that you know what works for you as a unique human. And if you release yourself, I told somebody this today, and this is so important for understanding, release self-doubt. Stop second guessing yourself. That's a toxic trait. You're gaslighting yourself. That directly affects your understanding, because it's like you have this understanding and then all of a sudden there's that ego survival brain going, nah, that sounds ridiculous, number one, and then you just convince yourself you're wrong. Don't do that.
Right. And what's crazy is if somebody were asked to put a face to that statement that they made to themselves, there'd be one. And a lot of times it wouldn't be their own. Maybe at first, but then they would realize that this was something that they heard. And, a belief is a thought that you think about frequently, but faith in that belief, that's different. Yes. That's when you've internalized it and made that your understanding.
Yes. Yes.
And we tell not always a good thing.
Yeah, well, that's why we tell you to prove those affirmations to yourself, because you need to help yourself believe in yourself. So because there's that human limitation of needing proof. Yeah. Well, that's a made up limitation. You can actually just trust. That was the surrender conversation last week.
Yes.
Trust yourself.
Yes.
I mean, that surrender to understand.
Jack Canfield loved, Henry Ford's quote so much that he used it in Chicken Soup for the Soul. Whether you believe you can, whether you believe you can't, either way, you're right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is such a good conversation.
It really is. I knew that once we got going that it would just,
Yes. And I love that we don't, I'm sorry, I'm taking a moment. I love that we don't talk about any of this first. We just kind of let it happen.
We don't.
I love it. I hope y'all love it too.
If we have a conversation in between, it is not about what we're going to talk about when we come here.
Yeah. Ever. Yes.
Does anyone even today, when we first connected, she was like, I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are on it. And I was like, same. Because we didn't talk about this at all. And that's what makes it even more fun, because it's unscripted, no plans except for this is our topic.
Right, right. Does anyone else have any comments or questions?
I'm not seeing any right now. We got about 5-ish minutes left. And I just want to take the opportunity to let everybody know, if you're watching the replay, and thank you if you have for making it this far, because I know that attention spans in this day and age don't go beyond 7 to 12 minutes when you're doom scrolling. So thank you if you've stuck around this far. First off, if there are comments that you have about the video that you'd like to make in the comment section below, please feel free. I will see them and make sure that I share them with Diane. And if there are any suggestions that you have, after watching this or any of the other 9 episodes that we've done up to this point, of a topic that you'd like to hear about, throw it at us. And if it resonates and we want to talk about it, then we will. Because we, like we just said, we never know where it's going to go. Right. And I have actually had such a blast.
I know. This is a great conversation. Thank you, Micah.
Oh, no,
Thank you,
no problem.
everyone.
And it was actually, it was inspired by a woman named Karen Mess, who I just met, and she lives over, I believe, in the Netherlands. And it's been a pleasure getting to know her, and that was who inspired this conversation. So whether
Wonderful.
she intended to or not, there was that understanding that she had that was trying to come through, that I was trying to bring through for
Yeah.
other people when they witness this video,
Yeah.
which it is on TikTok. I'll probably try and throw it up on YouTube later on after this, so it'll be in my feed here. Hopefully YouTube doesn't kick it out, because David can be a bit fussy with his music.
It should be fine. I love that inspiration comes from everywhere.
It really. So
Thank you.
oh, you're very welcome. And do you have let's go with closing remarks. Do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to share before we close up?
The acknowledgement that you are learning about yourself and practicing that understanding will help you move forward, because you do need to acknowledge yourself as well, because it's basically practicing conscious awareness of self to achieve that understanding. Very important.
It is very important.
Got this.
You do. And when you hold that understanding hostage with thoughts of, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'll always be like this, you're right. And you will hold that understanding hostage as long as you have these beliefs about yourself. Once you start realizing you are so much more than you ever thought you could be, regardless of what limitations physically, mentally, or that actually disable you.
Right.
As long as you believe that those are what holds you back, you're right. But let me ask you this, how's that working for you?
Right. Right.
Have that understanding that you are worth it, you are good enough, you are capable of so much more. And once you have that understanding, the world around you is going to see you differently too.
That's right. Release self-doubt.
Yes. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close up for this week. Thanks so much for joining. And always remember, keep going, make it a great week. And who knows what we're going to talk about next week. Much love.
Who knows? Thank
All right.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you.